instruct childlessness. One, instruct childishness. Instruct childishness. We are addressing disciplined parenting. This is part 2, where we're just looking at how we address our kids' different heart needs and how they respond to the Lord. We have to be disciplined in how we respond to them in terms of how they're responding to the truth or deception, the temptations, where their heart is at. There's a lot of these things, and I'm going to try to boil it down into kind of a, not an easy, but a little more simpler kind of idea that, it's not original with me. There's a lot of people who've instructed this kind of stuff, but hey, if you're watching this, hopefully you'll learn it here and continue it on, because the scriptures teach these things. So let's start in 1 Thessalonians 2:11. It says, "For you know that we treated each of you as a father treats his own children, encouraging you, comforting you, and urging you to walk in a manner worthy of God who calls you into his own kingdom and glory." This is where we are here to really help our kids, to help them understand what the Lord has for them, that we are treating our kids as a father would, right? That's, as Paul's saying, as we encourage, we comfort, we urge our kids to walk in a manner worthy of God, that we're pointing to the Lord. We've talked about in different verses, but when we get into Ephesians 6, where he says that you want to bring them up in the discipline and instruction of the Lord, that's Ephesians 6:4, that you are literally instructing them, you're disciplining them in the Lord, so that as they go through life, they're not just doing what you say to do, they're doing what God says to do. Kids are not naturally knowledgeable. They're not smart. And you don't have to teach a kid to be wicked. You don't have to teach a kid to be selfish. They almost every impulse of the human being is to be selfish and proud, to scheme, to lie, to just get whatever you want. That is what we as humans are naturally. But to do good, to care about people, that is a learned skill. That is a learned habit. That's a characteristic that is built up and trained. That's what we're supposed to be looking for. And so when you understand that a kid is depraved from the time that they've come into existence, and that's all of us, we've got to understand that we need to train our kids. But often we get to the place where it's all about discipline, and punishment, and making sure they pay for everything they do that's wrong. We want to be careful, because, again, going back to 1 Thessalonians, he says, you encourage, you comfort, you urge. And in that discipline and instruction of the Lord, the training and instruction of the Lord, you want to really, you want to instruct childishness. Yeah, there we go. It's something that we tend to, as parents, get really worn out and tired, that when a kid is a kid and they do kiddie things, we can get annoyed because they're loud, they're obnoxious, they're thoughtless, they're clumsy. There's a lot of things that in many ways it's not malicious, it's not intentional, it's just childish, it's unlearned, it is just the natural order of who they are. You don't discipline in even that wicked heart just for being what they are, in the sense of, a kid likes to play. Yeah, they should be thoughtful. Yes, they should be thinking. Yes, they should put their toys away. Yes, they should not be too loud and hurting other people's ears and things like that. But those are kind of things that at that point, that has not even yet to occur to a child, as the scriptures talk about, that there is a point in time, and not like literally an age, but with every kid, that there's a before and an after, before they know enough to choose the right and reject the wrong. When you look at that and go, you do not want to discipline a kid who doesn't know enough to choose. You are instructing that, because if you don't even give them an alternative from selfishness, that's who they are naturally. And yeah, as a little toddler and as a little kid, you have to train them all the way through that. No, you need to eat your vegetables. No, you don't spit them back out. No, you don't throw food across the room. A lot of times you can look at that and go, oh, gee, they're just awful. But why would a kid know that that's not cool unless they've been told? And how do you tell a kid who doesn't even speak a language yet? You train them, you work with them, you show them, you repeat it, yes, in words. This is how they learn language, but you also show them. And then you see when they make choices and when they don't make choices. When they're just being silly kids, you instruct it. When they are obviously rebelling and they know, and it doesn't mean they know how to talk or anything, but a kid that you say, don't throw that, and they know, and they look you dead in the eye, and they're like, you can see they just made a choice. Well, that's rebellion. You discipline that. But see, we go, oh, discipline to the portion that it needs. Like a little kid like that, you probably grab their hand and go, no, and you just kind of touch their hand and hold their hand with a strength that they just know, like, hey, I can't move my arm freely right now. That's a form of discipline, because all of a sudden they've lost the free use of their hand, even for that few seconds, just to hold it and go, no. They kind of know something's going on here. It does not mean you need to hurt them, cause even any pain. Nothing like that. It's just a form of discipline. But why would you do that the first thing they do when they don't even know what they're doing? So even as like a little kid, if they throw food, you don't immediately grab their hand and go, no, you instruct, you go, no, that's not what you do. Hey, we don't throw food. And you might even more gingerly and go, no, you put the spoon. And, you're instructing them. And there's a difference between grabbing their hand to instruct them and show them, and grabbing their hand to stop them from doing something. One's discipline, one's instruction. Both are needed, but you got to apply it at the right time in the right way. This is where, when you have to discipline your kids, you want to not discipline childishness, but discipline rebellion. But keep in mind mercy. So we instruct childishness, we discipline rebellion, but with mercy. Ezra 9:13 says, after all that has come upon us because of our evil deeds and our great guilt, though you, our God, have punished us less than our iniquities deserve, and have given us such a remnant as this. Punished us or disciplined us or give us our just deserts to train us, teach us, but less than we deserve. God is not in the business of giving just full out, without warning, without instruction, without multiple chances. And the same for us. If we have to discipline our kids, whether they are a little toddler to, a teenager, right? Like, you don't just discipline to the full extent of the law and to the full extent of your wrath and your anger. That's not biblical. You literally want to remember mercy even in wrath. Remember mercy even when you have to train and discipline, that you are doing to the extent of their need, not to the extent of what they deserve. So you discipline with mercy. A kid who comes home late, they were supposed to be home at, 10 o'clock, and they get home at 10:15. If you just go, well, now you can't go out for 3 weeks, and you don't even listen to the story and see what happened, you might get a lot of resentment from that when they're like, it wasn't my fault, we got a flat on the way. Like, well, you should have figured it out, and you're already off and going. You're not even disciplining rebellion or childishness. You're just disciplining something foolish, and that's not discipline. That's not disciplined on your part. Remember, we have to be disciplined on our part. So you listen to it. Well, what if they lost track of time? And your kids, some kids almost kind of willfully lose track of time. Like, oh yeah, what time is it? Because they want to forget the time. When you get to know your kid and they're doing that, you discipline that in a one way or another to the extent of their needs, but with mercy. Whereas if you have a kid who keeps track of time, and they're usually good about it, and then this time they're going, man, I just lost track of time. You may even suspect, no, you didn't. You willfully, but boy, it's so close to that border. Like they were only 15 minutes late. They're usually pretty good. Oh, but I think that, which way are you going to lean? Oh, I'm going to discipline them, make sure they never forget. Or do you kind of go, they've shown worthiness of trust to some extent, and I'm sure they're childish, that's when you instruct a little more and go, hey, look, if you're losing track of time with things, maybe you got these smartphones these days, you young whippersnappers, you put an alarm on, make sure wherever you're at, you give yourself enough time to get back. You instruct them, you give them an idea of how to structure their life, to obey, to do well. You don't discipline them like, well, you got to pay for that. And like, no, there's times you're going to find that whether it's a little toddler or to a teenager or anywhere in between, that there's needs where technically maybe they deserve some kind of discipline. But you recognize, if you're really thinking in love, you're thinking in truth, that really this might be a moment more for mercy than anything else. And that might lean more back towards instruction. Other times it's just, no, they're telling me exactly what they need to do. I don't even need to instruct. And I don't need a discipline. Even though they deserve it, I'm going to let it go this time and go, hey, mercy wins out. And it doesn't mean you don't even say that. Like you might or might not, but even in rebellion, you want to discipline rebellion with mercy. So again, instruct childishness, discipline rebellion with mercy. But there's two things you want to do in the midst of either one of those two. These are two prongs that you really want to keep in mind, right? The instruction or the discipline. And it's not either or. A lot of times it's both and, but make sure you're headed for the direction of what is going on with your kid. If it's more childishness, go more to instruction. If it's more rebellion, go more to discipline. But through all those things, there's two other principles that you want to work through, and that is train through everything. That's one of them, right? Deuteronomy 6:7 says, repeat them again and again. That is the commands of God, the scriptures. But he says, repeat them again and again to your children. Talk about them when you are at home and when you are on the road, when you are going to bed and when you are getting up. You train through everything. So even when you have to discipline, your idea is not just punitive, as we talked about in the last video, but the idea is to persuade them towards righteousness and dissuade them from wickedness. But you're looking to train them and to have them connect the dots. And a lot of times you got to think it through for them and explain it to them of why they're being disciplined or why they're not being disciplined, why they're being shown mercy, and why I'm having to instruct you kind of on this and point it out, because you're looking for a heart that is going towards the Lord, not necessarily just a list of rules that your kid is learning. You're training them to love the Lord. So you got to talk about it all the time. You repeat it again and again and again and again, to the place where maybe your kids even kind of go, oh, here goes the mantra. And we're not talking lectures. We're not talking just cliches that you say, but you're constantly talking about loving God and loving others. Those are the two commands that everything else hangs on. And your kids might get sick of like, oh, geez, here we go. I wasn't loving other people. It's like, well, that's true. You weren't loving other people. Let me instruct you of how that plays out in this scenario and how you might have failed or how you could have done better, or actually you did pretty good here, but let me instruct. You're training through all this and you're repeating it again and again. And well, that's not very loving to the Lord. And are you responding to God? Are you heeding him? Are you seeking to glorify him? These are things that kids will sit there and go, but whether you're instructing or disciplining, you want to train them. You're not just out to do the checklist. I instructed you. I told you what to do. Put that spoon in your mouth. Take it out. Then you are done. I have told you. I have spoken. It is over, right? Like, no, it's you instruct them, but you also train them. And training is very habitual. It's repetitive. It is practice. And you have to oftentimes help them practice, but you have to practice training them to repeat those kind of things again and again. I mean, you're teaching your kids how to do laundry. You don't just tell them once and walk away. Oftentimes you have to tell them, show them, have them try it, then you tell them again, and then you show them again, and then they try it again, and then you have them correct the little things, and then you have them do some more, and then they practice, and you're overseeing, and then after several of these repeated processes, they start getting it. And it's like, man, chimpanzees learn quicker than this. Yeah, but chimpanzees never excel to godliness. Chimpanzees never actually grow in a relationship. We think they're all cute and everything, but come on, but we can get so frustrated as parents, and this is where, again, discipline of yourself makes such a difference, that you are out to train your kid, not to just get through the event, get through the episode, get through the scenario and situation and just move on. You're looking to really bless them, not overbearing, and we'll talk about that in a different video too, and then the next one, part 3. But you're looking for their good. You're not trying to rush through stuff. You're there for them. They're not there for you. So train through everything. The second other thing that goes in everything is you set the model. All right. So just like I was saying, training, you instruct them, but then you show them. Well, modeling it is the same thing. 1 Corinthians 4:16 and 17 says, "Therefore I urge you to imitate me. That is why I sent you Timothy, my beloved and faithful child in the Lord. He will remind you of my way of life in Christ Jesus," which is exactly what I teach everywhere in every church. So you want to set the example of attitude, of communication. You set an atmosphere as a father and mother of what the home is going to be like. You set the culture, but you literally are setting an example for them so that they know how to react. They know where to go. And I mean, you think about how a child falls down and you freak out. They learn, oh, I'm supposed to freak out when I fall down. But if you stay calm, oftentimes they stay calmer. They may not completely stay calm, but they'll stay calmer because you stay calm. And in the same way, when they mess up and you lose it, that's how they should feel then when they mess up or anyone else messes up. They and they get, and you're going, where did all these emotional outbursts come from? Well, they had it modeled for them. Whereas if you're disciplining yourself and you're setting the model to where what you teach is how you live. So again, you kind of go, well, I don't do that, Dan. How do I teach my kids? Well, you need to instruct them, but boy, you better be instructing yourself and disciplining yourself and training yourself, making the habit and openly confessing. I'm learning these things too. So if you're even kind of behind the scale and behind the I don't know, you're just behind schedule in your walk with the Lord, you're behind schedule for your kids and your marriage and things like that. That's not, I don't want to say it's okay, but it's not devastating the way we think if we will just openly confess and not just say, oh, sorry, get over it. It's confess and renounce. Like, I don't want to do this anymore. I don't want to blow my stack, and I don't want to just get upset or be lazy or ignore you. You know, I need to do better at that. And you're right. I was wrong. I'll move forward from here. And then you do that. That's even a model for you kids of how to change, how to grow. So, you know, the old adage, do as I say, not as I do, of a hypocrisy kind of idea. Well, then the reality should actually be do as I say and as I do, right? It's both and. So again, we want to instruct childishness, discipline rebellion with mercy, but you train through everything and you set the model in everything so that you're not provoking your children, as Ephesians 6:4, we talked about that earlier, but you don't provoke your children to wrath because you're bringing them up in the discipline and instruction of the Lord. And I find it interesting when it says bring them up in the discipline and instruction. It's not you discipline them and instruct them in the Lord. You bring them up in it, which means, yeah, you're disciplining them. Yes, you're instructing them. But it's in the field, or it's within the atmosphere, or within the culture, or I don't know. I mean, if you want to say the pot of the culture that you create, that they're being brought up in your discipline and instruction of you following the Lord, that you are seeking the Lord, that as they are being raised up, it's within the atmosphere or within the heart or within the family structure that you yourself are the one who is disciplining yourself. You're instructing yourself, and they're being brought up in that. And that's where in Proverbs he says, blessed are the children who come after a righteous man. Because a righteous man sets the stage. A righteous mother, a righteous father sets the stage. So here's some questions to ask yourself when it comes to instructing childishness or disciplining rebellion. You're trying to train in everything, right? And setting the model. Some questions. Are you trying to lead the heart to Christ? Are you trying to lead your child's heart to Christ? Or are you really just seeking the path of least resistance? And That takes different forms. Some, it's just allowing your kids to do whatever, whenever, and you just don't say anything. That's one method of path of least resistance. That's the one people notice in the stores. That's the one people hate in the planes when your kids just are horrible. But for Christians, a lot of times there's another path of least resistance, and oftentimes that's severe discipline, very controlling parenting, to the place where your kids have no freedom. They are constantly just waiting for the parents to say, this is what you do, this is what you do. That sounds great in one sense, like, oh, you're teaching them. Oftentimes we're so strict because if you break a kid and almost break their will, and you don't want them resistance to the Lord, you don't want their will fighting against God or against you. But when you just kind of break a kid down where they're just like, whatever, they're done trying. They'll just go through the motions because they now know the path of least resistance is just do what they say. But their heart's not there. That is a form of a path of least resistance, that you're more stubborn than your kids to the place where you're not concerned about where their heart is, where their attitudes are, what their relationship with the Lord is, even their relationship with you. You're only concerned with outward actions. You're only concerned with their adherence to your rules, and you're only concerned with how they affect you. That's also not trying to lead their heart to Christ. You're just trying to break them down just so that you have the path of least resistance. And those are often the kids who come up in the church, and yeah, they're okay obedience wise and stuff, but I'll tell you, they're resentful. They hate their parents a lot of times, and they end up blaming God in a lot of ways, and they walk away from the Lord as adults, and they often go crazy and get into all kinds of crazy things once they get freedom. And parents go, how did that happen? I mean, I made them follow the rules. I taught them. I trained them. It's like, you taught them and trained them rules. You taught them and trained them to do what you say. But boy, when they got freedom, they're out because they were sick of it. You didn't lead them to the Lord. You didn't shepherd their heart. You crushed it. And that's where he goes, don't embitter your kids. Don't provoke them. Don't weigh them down. And we'll talk more about that in the next video. The next question is, do you have to say no? That is like my natural impulse towards my kids. They ask for anything, my first thought is no. Hey, you eat a donut? Can I have a no? And that'll continue because they can't have my donuts. It's a natural thing for us to get into the place where you just expect your kids to ask things that they shouldn't ask and want things that they shouldn't want. And being selfish, proud, and lazy, it's very easy just to say no to almost anything. But you really do want to ask yourself, is this a situation that I have to say no in? Because there are situations where you have to say no for the sake of their soul, for the sake of other people, for the sake of the family, for the sake of the Lord. There's a lot of reasons to say no. And yet there's a lot of reasons to say yes. There's a lot of reasons to just, even though you may not like it, you may not enjoy it, it may cost you something, it's not comfortable for you. If you don't have to say no, you probably want to say yes. But there are times to say no. So ask yourself, do you have to say no? So do you have to say no? Can you say yes? And that's the next question. But can you say yes is not just merely it's permissible or it's okay. There's times you have to really look and go, is this good for them? Is this beneficial? Is this, playing into their weaknesses or being too lenient or all those? You do want to ask, should I say yes? But can I say yes? And let me tell you, if you're going to lean one way or the other, go towards the yes rather than the no, because no's tend to embitter your kids. Now, they're trying to put their finger on a light socket. You don't go, yes, try it. No, you say no. That's no. And it doesn't and please don't take this as you literally just say no, yes. We're talking communication. When you say no, you want to explain the reasoning behind it. You want to explain your heart behind it. And that's the next question. What is your biblical reasoning either way? If you are saying no, you should have a biblical reason for saying no. And if you're saying yes, you should have a biblical justification for saying yes. You want to explain those things at times, and other times it's so simple that, you don't need to get into it every single time. But again, train in everything, set the model and everything. So, but you want to learn as a parent, being disciplined within yourself, to not just say yes or no based on your preference, even like how you were raised, or what the pastor has said offhandedly in a sermon or something like that. You want to examine the scriptures yourself and see what God says. And if there's a reason to say no, you say no. And if there's a reason to say yes, you say yes enthusiastically. But you want to learn, and you want to grow, and you want to be more understanding of why yes or no. And you want to explain that to your kids. And you want that in your own heart. Even when you don't fully understand it and you're going, that seems like a no. Tell your kids, that's just how it seems right now. I got to look at this and examine it. And until I know, it's a no right now. So maybe it'll be yes later, but boy, right now, not yet. But you don't just leave it and go, well, that took care of that. It's like, no, now I need to go research. I need to study. I need to figure this out. I need to ask someone else who might know the scriptures more. You go forward. You don't just stay ignorant. And that's part of disciplined parenting. And then last but not least, are you making a decision on what is best for your kid, not you? Your kid's best interest eternally, right? Yes, temporarily too, but eternally, ultimately. 1 Corinthians 10:24 talks about that you're not to seek your own good, you're to seek the good of others. And then in 2 Corinthians 12:19, he says, it's not about defending myself. Everything I do is for your strengthening. And that's what a parent should be looking at, is I'm trying to build my kid up. I'm trying to bless them. I'm trying to lead them to the Lord. So am I making decisions on what is easiest for me, what's up to my preference, what I like, what makes me feel comfortable, or am I doing it for where they're at? Being a father of daughters, their needs are very different than mine. Their preferences are very different than mine. So if they ask me about my preferences, boy, usually we're going to be kind of opposites or at least varying degrees of things within our life. There's different struggles. And so as a father, I have to not just lean on Sarah so that she takes control and she knows everything, but I sure better listen very carefully to the struggles that ladies have through my wife, so that I'm making a better decision as the father and as a leader, but also as a friend and as a mentor and as a model and all those things. There's things I have to change. I mean, I can joke with guys in a different way than I can joke with even my own daughters. But there is a place where there's times I will joke with my daughters in a way that some would probably say, well, that's not good. It's like, I'm doing it purposely to, in one sense, help them understand how to deal with a man. So if I candy coat everything and I make myself almost effeminate so that they're comfortable, how do they deal with men after that? I need to train them. Doesn't mean I push it. It doesn't mean I'm mean about it. But I have to think, not just what makes me laugh or what makes me look good. It's what do they need? And it's the same for a mother with her daughters, or a mother with her sons, and the same thing. You don't think through how it works best for you and what makes you look best. It's what do they need from me? And sometimes you're going to be the hero, and other times you're going to be the villain for a little while, and they're not going to like you. But you do things not based on how they'll even respond necessarily right then and there, or how they'll think of you, or how it makes your life easier. You do it on what you are convicted in, scripturally speaking, of what you believe to be best for their soul and what blesses them long term, eternally. But yeah, and try to make it as good and easy as possible within the immediate to benefit immediate things. But there's a lot of times you're going to have to say things and teach things and make decisions that they're not going to like, and you're not going to be the big person on campus because you're doing it for their sake. And, maybe they'll come back and thank you. Maybe they'll never notice. But that's not even the point. You're hoping that they are drawn to the Lord and they're growing to love Him more and more, as we talked about in other videos. So there you go. Don't provoke your children. Instruct childishness. Discipline rebellion with mercy. Train in everything. Set the model in everything. And, hey, lead them to Christ, right? Lead their heart to Christ. Hope this helps. God bless you guys. Peace.